Hey guys, welcome to another video of CloudDeepDive. In today's video, we will discuss about AWS Network Firewall. This is the new feature launched by AWS during reInvent 2020, and I thought of doing a video on that and showing you how you can create a network firewall in your VPC, how it works, what is the architecture looks like, and what all problems it solves for your VPC workloads. So before we jump into AWS Network Firewall, let's first discuss that what all capabilities you have in terms of security for your VPC. So right now we have at the instance level, you can see that we can use security groups, which provide where you can add rules and which provide security for your instances. All the traffic coming to your instances and going out can be evaluated by these rules, and you can restrict those kind of traffic. If you talk about subnet level, we have network ACLs, NACLs we call, and these are the stateful rules you can add in that, and any traffic going in and out of your subnet can be evaluated by using this NACL. Apart from that, we had WAF and Shield as well. WAF is basically used to protect web applications that's running on your CloudFront API or your load balancers. And AWS Shield is another service by AWS which helps you or protects you against DDoS attacks. So these were a few capabilities which AWS provide to cover your current workloads or applications or your VPC. But there was not an easier way to scale network security across all your resources in your workload, regardless of which AWS service you use. Like there's no capability on URL filtering. Suppose you want to say that okay, I don't want to send traffic to a particular URL address, so can I block it? So those kind of capabilities were missing. To solve these kind of issues, AWS launched a new service called AWS Network Firewall. It is highly available and managed network, which is managed by AWS, and it's a firewall service for your VPC. Basically, what I mean that in your VPC you can create a firewall which is very highly available and scalable and managed by AWS, and which give you all this capability to manage or kind of provide security to your VPC workload. So let's understand what is how the architecture look like of network firewall, how you can set it up. So to show in a diagram of a single availability zone architecture. So in today's world, what we have that we have a VPC, we have a subnet in one of the AZ, and any traffic going from the subnet will directly go to internet gateway. And in between we have our security groups and NACLs, but there is no other firewall in between which is can inspect your traffic. So all the traffic goes directly from the subnet to the internet gateway, and any traffic coming from the internet gateway will come to subnet. The only NACL and subnet rules, security group rules will be evaluated. So how firewall will come into picture and how it will help. So I just pasted two different diagrams where we'll cover both of them with one zone architecture and two zone architecture. If we talk about one availability zone, so what network firewall is going to do that will create a new subnet in our VPC in our availability zone in a particular region, and we create a network firewall. So it's basically it will create a VPC endpoint in this particular subnet, and what we're going to do that any traffic going to the internet, suppose I want to inspect all the traffic going out from my subnet to the internet, I will route that any traffic coming or going towards the internet should first go to the firewall subnet, and firewall subnet or firewall running in the firewall subnet will inspect the traffic, and then it will route the traffic to the internet gateway. Similarly, any traffic coming towards my subnet from the internet, so internet gateway will, instead of sending traffic directly to my subnet, it will send it to firewall subnet, where my firewall will inspect the traffic, and based on what rules I'll add in that, it will inspect and pass and drop the traffic, and if it is passed, then it will pass to my subnet. So this is a great capability which is added in your particular VPC, where all the traffic coming in and out of that subnet, VPC, can be inspected by this firewall, and based on the rules you add in the firewall, the traffic will be allowed or denied. Similarly, if we go with the two availability zone, you can have a firewall subnet in each availability zone, and all the subnets in that particular availability zone will you can get traffic inspected by the firewall in that particular availability zone or in that region, and then you can make sure that all the traffic is being monitored or is being rules are evaluated on all of them, on all of those traffic. So that's how it works, guys. Now to make sure that all the traffic is being passed through the subnet, you need to modify your route tables, because whenever a traffic is being initiated, it first go and check the router, go and check the route table that where the traffic need to send. So if I show you the earlier diagram, that any traffic going to the internet is directly going to the internet gateway. And in this, what we are going to do, so we'll say that in the route table that any traffic going to the internet, instead of sending to the route so internet gateway, send it to the VPC endpoint or your firewall subnet. And from your firewall subnet, any traffic going to the internet will be going to the internet gateway. So the traffic initiated for internet will go first to the firewall subnet, rules will be inspected, then it will forward the traffic based on the route table to the internet gateway. Similarly, any traffic coming from the internet gateway route table will evaluate and say, okay, I need to send the traffic to the firewall subnet. It will evaluate the rule in the firewall subnet, and based on pass or fail, it will again pass those traffic to the customer subnet or to your internal subnet. So that's how it works, guys. And I'll be showing all of them. We'll do the whole setup in our VPC, and I'll show you how it works. We'll add some rules and all those. So let's go to our console, and there we'll see what all different components you have in your firewall subnet, how you will configure and all those things. Before I jump on, one last thing I want to add is that firewall subnet will inspect traffic which are originating from other subnets. If you have any traffic which is originating from the same subnet, suppose you have firewall subnet and you have EC2 instance, if that EC2 instance is generating any traffic, so those traffic won't be evaluated. It will evaluate only traffic which are being originating from the different subnets. And one of the reason you can think of, like if I have any traffic here, so the rule will be like traffic going to the internet will go to the internet gateway. It won't go to that particular VPC endpoint. So that's how it's gonna work, guys. So if whenever you create a subnet, you can just create very small subnet so that you are not consuming more much IPs, because VPC endpoint will be created that will just consume only one IP. So we'll say that preferably you just create a /28 subnet so that you're not eating up a lot of IPs from your VPC. So let's go to the console and we'll see how it works. So in your VPC console, you go to your VPC section, and under that you have firewall. Under AWS Network Firewall, you have firewall policies, and you have network firewall rule groups. So we'll talk about all these three, what these are and how they relate to each other. Let's first talk about network firewall rule groups. Firewall rule groups are basically a set of rules which you can add and that evaluate your traffic. So if we go with to create a network firewall rule group, there are two kind of rules you can create. One is stateful rule, another is stateless rule group. Stateful rule, you know that when the traffic is coming in and when the response is going out, while the response is going out, rules won't be evaluated. Stateless is rules will be evaluated both when the traffic is coming in and when the traffic is going out. Like we have the security group for stateful and NACL were stateless. In stateful rule group, when you create it, you have three options. One is 5-tuple domain list and Suricata compatible IPS rules. So in 5-tuple, basically you will provide there are 5 things. One is your protocol, one is your source IP and source port, destination IP and destination port. So I can say that okay, any TCP protocol traffic initiating from anywhere, or you can provide your subnet IP. Suppose you're saying any TCP traffic initiating from your subnet and going to the internet, or sorry, port, you can suppose say HTTP or HTTPS port, whatever port you want to say, and you want to say that going to the internet with any port, suppose 80 or 80 443, whatever port you want to do it. and then you can say that what action you want to take. You want to pass that or drop that, or you want to send an alert. So pass means that traffic will be allowed, drop means traffic will be denied, and alert means a alert will be initiated, and in your log group, in your CloudWatch logs, there will be an entry that okay, something happened where you want to see an alert. Now another thing in that is the traffic direction. So traffic direction, basically any and forward means. Forward means that if you have any traffic which matches your source configuration, so traffic is originating from this source, and if the traffic is destined for the address which matches your destination configuration, so that is called the forward. So it should match, source should match the source configuration, destination should match the destination configuration. That means that only those kind of traffic will be detected or will be inspected. Any means like if you have a traffic which is whose source is falling in this source, as well as source is falling in the destination, and destined of that traffic is falling in source and destination. So basically I'm will talking about to and fro traffic. So those traffic will be inspected in terms of any, and forward means only when the source and the destination is matching with the source and destination. So that's for the 5 tuple. Second, you have domain list. Domain list you can provide like I want to block a traffic with suppose amazon.com. I want to inspect all the traffic for this, and protocol HTTPS, and I want to allow or deny the traffic. So maybe I want to say that I don't want anyone to access this website. I don't have any reason why they don't want to, but I'm just kind of giving an example. So you can do a URL based checking as well, that you don't want people to access certain URLs from your VPC. And then you have Suricata compatible IPS rules. So for that you can check their AWS website, the documentation. There are a couple of examples, and there's website as well provided on that. You can go there and check out the rules, create your rules, and you can add those rules in here. So these are the stateful rules, guys, and I left out one thing, capacity. I'll cover in a minute. Just let's first cover the stateless rules as well. Um, so under stateless rules, again, you will provide the name, description, capacity, and you will provide priority. So stateless rules are evaluated based on the priority. Like in the NACL, you have whenever you add rules, you used to give the priority 100 or 110 or 120, and lower the priority, the rule first lower priority rule will be evaluated, and then the higher priority rules will be evaluated. Similarly, in this case, your lower priority rules will be created evaluated first, and then the higher priority rules will be evaluated. And one thing is, the moment your rule is evaluated or matched, it won't evaluate any further rule. So suppose your first rule say that pass, so it will just pass and it won't evaluate further rules. In that you will use the 5 tuple thing, that you will mention what all protocols you're going to use, from which source, source port, destination IP, destination port, and on that what action you want to take. So in that you can either pass or drop, or you can say that instead of taking any action, I want to forward it to stateful rules. So after this, just go ahead and evaluate the stateful rules as well, and let them decide whether to pass or fail. And if you want, you can take some custom actions as well. You can even integrate it with your CloudWatch metrics. So that's how you can add a stateless rules. And within each stateless or stateful, you can have multiple rules. So you set up this setting, you can do add rules, add rules, add rules. So you can have multiple rules within one log group. So that's why it's called a rule group. So it will be the stateless rule group, or it will be the stateful rule group. And within the same, you can have multiple rules. So in the stateless, like I mentioned, the order of evaluation is based on your priority. In your stateful rules, the order of evaluation will be by in terms of your action. So first, all the rules which has pass will be evaluated. Suppose you added 10 different rules in this log group. So it will, and 5 of them are pass rules, and suppose 3 of them is drop rules, and 2 of them is alert rules. So first, all the 5 rules will be evaluated which says pass, and if any of the rule matches, it will stop and it won't check any other rule further. Then if none of the rule from the past match, then it goes to the drop and then it goes to the alert. So that will be your um, order of evaluation of your stateful rules. So let's do one thing. Let's create a stateful rule, and okay, capacity, I'll come back. Let's keep the capacity 10, and just to keep it simple, I'm just doing like amazon.com, and I want to deny this traffic. So create a stateful rule group. So talking about rule capacity, there is a formula which is given on the website. Using that, the capacity is evaluated. It depends upon certain factors like what protocol you are using. Suppose one of the example it's giving a protocol specification set to UDP, a source specification set to this, each have a value of 1. So suppose you have a UDP and TCP both protocols set up selected, that means you consume 2 of the capacity. If you are providing 3 different IP addresses, that okay, from this range, and this range as a source or destination, that means you are consuming 3 capacities. So capacity is not the number of rules. Within the rule, what all parameters you are selecting, the capacity is being used or being calculated by you based on those parameters. So when we create a rule based on these factors, that what protocol you are selecting and what source and IP, how many source and IPs and destination IPs you are selecting or providing, based on that the capacity will be evaluated. And once you set up a capacity, so it can be maximum of 10,000 for a log group. So once you set up, suppose you did 2,000 as the capacity setup, you cannot change that capacity. Once it's set up, it's set up. So for a particular log group, whatever capacity you say while creating it, it will be set and you cannot change it. And that also contribute towards the overall capacity of your firewall. And I'll show you later in the when we're creating the firewall, that how that capacity comes or get evaluated. So this was about the rule groups, guys. So next, let's talk about the policy. So you can have log groups, then you can create a firewall policy. Firewall policy is basically, let's start creating one. We give the name, and then in this policy you can specify that okay, these are the stateful and stateless rules I want to evaluate under this policy. So this policy is a combination of your stateless groups or stateful groups, and groups are combination of your rules. So you can add a particular rule group from the stateless, or you can add a rule group from the stateful. So in this case we created a stateful rule group, so we can add that to this policy. And if you have any stateless, so you can add that as well. Here is some default action that how on which kind of packets you want to apply these rules, stateless, and what you want to do. You want to pass, you want to drop, or you want to take the forward this request to your stateful rules. And if you see here, guys, in a policy like stateless have a capacity of 10,000 maximum, and your stateful rule groups have a maximum capacity of 30,000, because when we created this stateful rule group, we set a capacity of 10. So it's saying that 10 capacity is already been consumed out of 30,000. So suppose you set a capacity of 3,000, so 3,000 capacity is already consumed from the overall quota, even though you are not using it, but you reserve the capacity for this particular rule group. So maybe whenever you create a stateful rule group or stateless rule group, just do some calculation, and based on that make sure that you are reserving enough capacity in case you need to add more rules in future. You have that capacity available. So next, add tags or review, and then we can create firewall policy. So we created a firewall policy which has a rule group. The rule group saying that it's a web-based, so domain-based, and saying that any traffic going to amazon.com, it should decline. So now let's go ahead and create a firewall. So before creating a firewall, I just want to show you that I did some setup before starting our demo. I have a VPC called demo VPC, and under that I created two subnets, one customer subnet 1 and one firewall subnet, and they both are in the same availability zone 2A 2A. In addition to that, I created some route tables. One route table I created for my customer subnet 1, and it's associated to my subnet is associated with this route table. Right now I have this route which I'm going to change. Then I have my firewall route table, and my firewall subnet is associated with my firewall route table, and will update the routes. And last I created an internet gateway route table. So right now it just have a rule, it does not have any association. So, and we will do it once we create our firewall. So now let's go ahead and create our firewall. Create firewall. So to create a firewall, we'll create a firewall. In the VPC you should have availability zone, subnet and all those things. You need a firewall policy and you need a role group. So test firewall, and I'm gonna select my VPC demo VPC. In that, in my 2A availability zone, I have a firewall subnet, because in that subnet I'm gonna create. And if you want, you can create this firewall in some other region as well, and you can select a add new subnet. You can create provide some different region and select some different subnet as well. Now you can create a new policy here as well, but since we already created, so we'll use that, and then we do create firewall. So it will take around 3 to 4 minutes to provision it. So I'll do one thing, I'll go ahead and pause the video, and once it's provisioned, it will come back. Okay guys, so our firewall is complete now, is provisioned, and if you open it, you will see some basic setting that we don't have any stateless rule group, but we do have one stateful rule group, which has one rule that any traffic going to amazon.com should be declined. In addition, what I did, I created a EC2 instance in our customer subnet. And what it is, so it's just kind of a normal Windows instance, and if I go and right now to amazon.com, so we will be able to open that website. So now, since right now I'm having this architecture, we didn't update our route tables. So what we're going to do, we'll update our route tables, and we'll see that the moment we update our route tables, any traffic going from my customer subnet to amazon.com will be evaluated by these rules, which says that amazon.com traffic will be declined and we won't be able to access it. So to do that, let's go to our route tables. In VPC. And before that, just want to show one more thing. When we created this network firewall, it created a VPC endpoint in that particular subnet. So it is an endpoint which is created in that particular subnet in US2A availability zone. So let's go to route tables, and first, for the firewall route table, what we need to do, we need to edit the routes, and we need to say that any traffic going to the internet should go to my internet gateway, right? Because after evaluating the rule, it will send the traffic to the internet gateway. If we talk about my customer route table, I don't want to send the traffic to the internet gateway. I want to send it to my firewall subnet. So for that, what we will do, we say that instead of sending it here, we want to send it to my network interface. Let me check what was the ID. Hold on. So let's take the endpoint interface ID, and let's go back, edit routes, edit route tables, and delete it. So we'll send it to this particular internet as well. So basically that will go to your VPC endpoint, your interface endpoint. Okay, so we updated our customer subnet. So my traffic from my customer subnet is going to my firewall subnet. From my firewall subnet is going to internet gateway. Now we need to update our internet gateway route table. So if we go to internet gateway route table, what we need to do, we'll do it by using the edge association, and we'll associate our internet gateway to it. Okay, and another thing what we need to do, we need to update our rule as well. So we say that 10.0.1.0/24, any traffic going for that particular subnet will go through my network interface. And let me put that ID and save it. So what we're saying that any traffic coming inside will go through my firewall subnet. So now everything is set up, guys. From a customer subnet, traffic will go to my firewall subnet. From my firewall subnet, traffic will go to internet gateway. When coming back from internet gateway, traffic will go to my firewall subnet. So now if we go back and check our this, if I do amazon.com, and you'll see it's keep on rotating, it won't send, or it won't let this amazon.com open. But if I go to some other website, suppose I say outlook.com, we'll be able to open. So because we added a rule in our rule group that amazon.com should not work, so that's why it's not working. But if I do outlook.com, it's working. So that's the whole setup, guys. That's how the rules work. Hope you like the video and you understand how the firewalls work, and how you can leverage it to secure your VPC. And it is at the VPC level, guys, not at any particular subnet. Or you can have multiple subnet, and all the subnet will you can use the same firewall to evaluate traffic from all of your subnet under that particular region. So that's it, guys, for this particular video. Hope you liked it and learned something new today. Please like and share my video and subscribe to our channel for more latest videos. I'll be posting more newly launched product videos from AWS. And if you want a particular video or particular product to be reviewed on, want to learn, please do let me know, and I'll be happy to do a video on that. Till then, thank you so much, guys, for watching the video. Thank you. Bye.